think getting people to eat more animal products is the most prominent thing, or getting them to eat, regenerative meat, raw dairy, because that's a huge jump for a lot of people. And, our mutual friend, mutual friends Brett and Harry from the Meat Mafia, and like, even Dr. Sean Baker, I had him on last week, and he talked about it's less about that and more about, I mean, ultimately, yes, you want to get to that,
Yeah.
but in order to get people eating animal meats and dairy, like, it's going from maybe just to that factory farmed meat and like the regular dairy. So what's your take on that?
I'm in that camp of yes, that we need to get people just off the processed foods and they need to eat what they can afford. And it's not an easy journey. I was on this whole journey. It wasn't like I woke up 6 or 10 years ago and all of a sudden I'm like at a ranch just buying organs. I'm just like drinking raw milk like
Yeah.
the first day. Like that certainly didn't happen.
Straight out of the udder.
No, man. I mean, I did in Costa Rica recently, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was warm. It's kind of off-putting though. It's too warm straight out of the udder. I want to let it cool down a little.
All right.
Uh, yeah, it's a journey. People can get there. It's like step one. It's like get the seed oils, added sugar, refined grains out of your diet. We call them the SAD three. It's like what makes up a SAD diet. People know standard American diet, SAD diet. These are the SAD three. These ingredients. It's seed oils, added sugars, deficient grains. We call them. Because refined, deficient. They're sort of get rid of all the good stuff. Even though I don't want to eat whole grains in the first place, but if you get people off of those things, and then they can start moving towards that. It's kind of like the end game is to be that person just with the raw milk, visiting the ranch, going to the farmer's market. And we just need to move people along that journey. And I got all my health improvements without doing that initially. When I talk about like the 10 years when I first started, that first year, I was just going to Costco or going to wherever and getting just whatever meat and eggs I could get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all the improvements.
Wow.
Right? I felt amazing. Like my entire life changed.
So that kind of took you from bad to good, and then there's like,
And then you can optimize from there.
Okay.
And then you go along the journey, and then yes, then you dial it in. And then I absolutely want people like now I can't eat any eggs but the good eggs.
Right.
The pasture raised, like orange yolks, like really nutrient dense eggs. But you got to get there.
Do you think that we'll ever get to a place where it is only like regenerative raised beef, it is only pasture raised eggs, or because I mean we all can agree that like the way that those chickens that you can get the 60 pack for $3 at the store, or
wild. Yeah.
you've been around the world, like we've seen all the documentaries. It's not great for the animals, it's not great for the environment. We obviously want to transition all farms into regenerative farms and whatnot, but do you think that there is still a benefit to having it so that people who might not have the ability to buy that $12 per pound ground beef, or the $7 dozen of eggs, is still able to get those products?
Yeah. Well, there's got to at least be a transition period to get to this system. It's kind of a pie in the sky dream that we could do everything regeneratively and do it right. It's theoretically possible, I think. I think there's enough land to do it. Like I've done some like kind of loose math, and if we didn't have all these fields of corn, wheat, and soy, I mean, you've flown over the country and looked down. There's a lot of land out there,
So
right?
much.
Yeah, just imagine if we use that land for animals. We didn't just we could do they move around. It's not like you have to have every square foot of land filled with animals, right? They do move around and they do help, and you can grow crops on the land when the animals aren't there, and there's holistic management and ways to grow them together. So there actually is enough land, especially if you get rid of all the corn, wheat, and soy. But I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it's ever going to be that. And I do think it is helpful for people to be able to afford. There's always going to be lower income people that are going to need the eggs that are $2 a dozen. So, but I just it's I like to know that it is possible if somehow we could spend the next 30 years transitioning into this way of doing it where it's correct and that it actually will be able to continue, because if you just do the way we're doing it, it's actually not going to continue. Like we're just kind of taking from the soil and we're trying to put in like nitrogen fertilizers to make up for it, but it's actually not working. We're slowly just degrading our soil. So we actually do need to do more regenerative methods so that we can uh, sustain this. But I think we could eventually, if there was the right incentives and motivations, which there aren't really in the mainstream,
Yeah.
we could slowly get there. And it would take like 30 years. That's an arbitrary number I made up, but it's like that's how long it would take to kind of just slowly switch it out and get it over. And then, 30 years from now, the eggs could be, the good eggs theoretically could be